Okay, we are live on YouTube. This is Justin Jones with Masonic Improvement, joined with Jason Reichenberg, Tom Strasball, Byron Weber, Daniel Dutton, Brad Hoff. I think that's everybody. And we are good to. And of course Dennis is here. Dennis
He's
Yates.
afraid. He's afraid to mention me because he knows that he's gonna be lost in the presence of me. As long as everybody recognizes I'm
Oh,
around.
yeah, it's because his big head eclipses
But I
everybody
didn't.
around him.
I didn't. Yeah, right. I wish my head was bigger than my body. I Yeah. Anyways, we'll just leave it
Okay,
at that.
better just leave it at that.
Yeah,
Well,
it's probably better that way.
we are talking completely understand, Brad. We're just glad you're here. We are talking this evening about the the liberal art of rhetoric, which is apparently a lost art in today's day and age. So we are going to discuss that. It just, for some reason or another, feels like a timely thing to bring up.
Yes. Well, and it's interesting that you say the liberal art. Um, Does anybody know the actual definition of liberal art?
No, I don't.
No.
What
Not
it
since you have your phone in
refer
front of you.
it do what?
You have your phone in front of you, so you probably have a much better
Yes, I
definition.
I just decided to pull it up and read it real quick. Now, well, I don't know if I want that one. That was generated by AI. Liberty. Let's do
You're
Wikipedia.
so
That's
untrustful.
let's do Wikipedia that's created by somebody that I don't know.
Jason posted one to the chat.
Jason, nobody likes a brown noser. Go ahead, read that one off because I was looking for something else. Anyways, I was working on something on my
You sure it
computer.
wasn't
Anyways,
generated by robots trying to take over the world, Jason?
Well, I mean, just the basic definition. It's just the study, and that was just a Google search. It's specifically the study of the humanities, social science, natural sciences, and the arts, rather than specialized vocational training.
so yeah, so I like this one as well. It says liberal arts education from Latin liberalis, which means free, and ars, which is art or principled practice. It's a traditional academic course in Western higher education. Liberal arts takes the term art in the sense of learned skill rather than specifically the fine arts.
So,
Liberal arts is well, basically what you just said. But
so
so in
it
essence,
was the question was asked in chat. What does the term liberal mean, though, in the classic sense, not in like the
free,
political sense?
free. It comes from the Latin word liberalis, which is free.
Mm.
So in so like free form rapping, for instance, free form,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what it is. And it's a learned skill. It's not something that um I think that's kind of what it is it's a learned skill from free thinking, in my opinion. And that's what I get from those definitions.
Yeah,
Anybody else get anything else?
I just think of like Plato's Republic for like one really good example because the majority of
Yes,
the book
very good
consists
example.
of Plato debating with people about ideas, and it's never aggressive, and it's never you can even tell like most of the time he's almost playing like devil's advocate with the way he words questions and things just to encourage conversation and thought. And so that's really that's what comes to mind for me, not necessarily so much a definition as it is an example of like this idea of like liberal application of rhetoric where it's
Well,
not.
I think it's what we do.
Yeah.
We
And it,
just discuss and become smarter doing it.
Well, and that's what I was looking up is, and yeah, you're right, exactly that is that by studying the liberal arts, it liberates the mind. That's like referring to the term as being
Yes, freeze
liberal
your
and being
mind.
free, and it's the idea of freeing your mind from ignorance and dogmatism, which Albert Pike specifically warns against. So having the liberal arts as part of one of our degrees would actually make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And stuff. And so that's, yeah. So when you're talking about liberal arts, it's the idea of liberating your mind by studying, all these different art forms.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes, yes. So, in other words, how can you truly understand the religion that you're a part of if you haven't studied any of the other ones?
Yeah, it's a good.
It's
point.
challenging yourself. So, rhetoric falls right along with those same principles. Rhetoric is the art of effective persuasive discussion. So it's basically challenging each other by playing devil's advocate to reinforce the stance that you believe in order to persuade the other side to come to into agreement with you. Now, in doing that, what it does is, and it's not always a win or win situation. It's not always a win or lose situation. Most of the time, it becomes a win-win because you learn more about your opponent as you go through this process. It's not just you being able to get your point heard. It's you being able to learn more about your opponent and understand their ways of thinking so that you can more effectively work together for a better outcome. So I think that's the beauty of rhetoric in itself.
I feel like there's a fine line here that we're kind of blurring. I think debate is when you're trying to bring someone over to your way of thinking. That's why we have like political debates and things. I think rhetoric is more just like almost like you're working out, like here's what I think, here's what you think. You're kind of bouncing off each other. And rhetoric is more, let's just explore this together. And with a debate, you're hoping someone goes one side or the other. With rhetoric, like a exercise in rhetoric, right, you both might be at a completely different conclusion than what you started with.
Right. And for me, I don't believe that there's a blurred line there, except for people who might have been thinking in their mind, in their head, that I was talking about debate, but that's not. Debate is different from rhetoric, because you're learning about your opponent as you're learning, as you're doing your thing. You're learning about your opponent, so then you can find that middle ground, that common ground.
Yeah.
Or not even necessarily a common ground, but find the best outcome for the common good.
What are you gonna say, Byron?
That's certainly a goal in rhetoric, but I don't believe it really is like a definition of rhetoric. Rhetoric, in my mind, is two or more people engaged in a conversation, not so that it's not an adversarial thing exercising rhetoric. There's not an opponent. It's a number of people getting together, having a discussion, and we use rhetoric to make our point. We're not trying to sway or change opinions. We're just trying to clearly put our opinion out, into the ether. Or
that's one way. Yeah, that's definitely one way to look at it. I'm always trying to persuade somebody to believe what I believe. I'm always trying to.
But as a quick point, I see Jason has his hand up. But as a quick point, if two people are engaged in rhetoric, and one has a good argument, like a good strong foundation for what they're talking about, and the other does not, then it looks very one-sided, and it looks like you're trying to convince people when really you just have a better argument that's founded on better principles than the other side. Sorry, Jason, what were you gonna say?
Well, you mean, I don't want to take up a whole bunch of time, but I've actually kind of thought about this a little for a while, because you know, you look at the seven liberal arts, and and traditionally they actually started off, they would go grammar, logic, rhetoric, um,
Grammar, rhetoric, logic, jo-
uh,
uh, arith-
not,
arithmetic. Wait. Oh, wow, you messed me up now.
yeah, now I know it's
Grammar, rhetoric,
okay.
logic, arithmetic, geometry, music, and
Rhetoric.
astronomy.
Okay, but when it came
Say
over,
that again.
all right, it's okay. Traditionally,
Grammar, rhetoric,
all right,
logic, arithmetic, geometry, music, astronomy.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
you're right.
That's
Well,
that's it.
the traditional order was grammar, logic, rhetoric. Okay.
Well, I
Okay.
could see
The
Okay.
why.
idea
Yeah.
was that the idea was that you would need to learn logic so that when you use rhetoric, you're
Yes.
in
Yeah.
a thing. However, Freemasonry flips rhetoric and logic. And
Yes.
there's been some debate about that, and we've heard some people kind of go back and forth on this. My thought is that logic requires a greater level of understanding than simply being able to use rhetoric. We know people that can be very persuasive, even like even though their ideas um, are completely lacking of in logic, but they're able to use rhetoric. So Freemasonry, I think, flips it in saying that yes, you know, as you progress up, that you know your level of understanding, and so you would grammar, rhetoric would be the practical use. Rhetoric would be the practical use of grammar. Logic would be a greater understanding to be able to use that rhetoric, and then you move into
Arithmetic.
arithmetic, geometry being the practical use of arithmetic, music combining arithmetic and geometry, and astronomy being the absolute where you're now reaching up into the cosmos, being able to use all of the, anyway, whatever, that's all that kind of stuff. But the idea is that I, when you're using rhetoric, it's a way of it's this idea of being able to explain, which I'm not doing very well, but being able to explain your ideas in
You sound very logical, though.
yeah, right, in a logical
I
form.
know, very logical, but not very fluid.
It's not, yeah, I might be very articulate. But at any rate, the idea is that if you go through all of them and you realize that yes, you could use rhetoric and um, put whatever ideas you have out there, but you need to take a look at yourself through all through the steps and realize that logic is a part of that. And if you've not taken that step and learned logic and to be able to decide what actually makes sense, that it is going to make sure that when you use rhetoric, that you're not popping off like because the subject is saying it obviously things that have happened recently with some people using probably ill-formed rhetoric for a lot of different things, and some of it we would probably consider in an unmasonic fashion. But um, you know, you got to go through all of the steps. You can't just start with grammar and then stop uh, at rhetoric and think that that's it. You need to go through all of the steps and learn all of the different levels before you just get out there and just start, you know, spouting off.
You know what? You know what? I think of while I'm listening to y'all, and I absolutely love the liberal arts and Freemasonry, and in fact in life I love the liberal arts and what it has contributed to my life. But you know what I what what I find is not present in the definitions that we read, the discussions that we've already had in all of this?
What?
Emotion. So when you practice rhetoric and you're utilizing logic instead of emotion, then in that process of all that contemplation and discussion with other people, you tend to not have elevated and heated debate.
Sure.
You tend to be able to keep your passions within due bounds and have the logical discussions that one needs to make calculated decisions on where we go next.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the things that because I and you know, if you guys hadn't noticed yet, you guys out there in the YouTube world, if you hadn't noticed yet, the reason we're discussing this is because of what happened with Charlie Kirk. And for me, that's extremely disappointing. I can't speak for everyone that's in our inner circle, but for me personally, that's extremely disappointing because we lost a good man with good values who only tried to help people understand the fallacies in certain ways of thinking.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that I believe everything that he believed. I'm not going to say that because I'm sure there's things that he has spoken on that I don't believe in. However, I never, ever got upset about, I don't get upset when I hear other people talking the nonsense that I hear that have spoken against what he had to say. And I don't find myself getting upset with people over topics that I do care passionately about, simply because I'm not letting my emotions run wild. You know how we typically get into real heated arguments with our own families where we don't get heated when we're having hardcore discussions with other people that aren't so close to us?
Yep.
Well, that's why, because we don't have those emotions attached to those conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that we really ought to key in on is, what are we really keeping? What are the passions that we're really keeping in due bounds when we're thinking in the terms of rhetoric and Freemasonry? And for me, that means keeping those emotions in check.
It's a very
What
good
do y'all
point.
think?
I think I'll kind of tie it to what I said when we were off air, and I'll bring that back in here. If we are in a fraternity, if not even in a fraternity, if we're in the brotherhood that is Freemasonry, and we
Yes,
can't,
thank you.
we can't.
Thank you for that, or I would have gotten emotional.
And we can't express. If we can't practice rhetoric in Freemasonry, it's not Freemasonry anymore. What's the point of it? Because that, honestly, rhetoric is probably one of the biggest foundational principles that brought Freemasonry where it is the exchange of ideas. If we're at a point culturally, not talking about Freemasonry anymore, if we're just at a point in our country where we can't discuss ideas, the alternative is really terrifying. If we can't discuss ideas, what else is there? It's not a pretty picture. It's just like with Freemasonry. If we can't discuss Freemasonry, I mean, if we can't discuss ideas in Freemasonry, it's just Lions Club with ritual.
Well, and to that point, you know, the original ambition of Freemasonry was to educate each other so that we could more effectively contribute to the world, right?
Yeah.
So that's our goal. And if we are letting the world affect what us inside Freemasonry, how are we ever going to affect the world?
Yeah.
If So I would not expect to see the things that I see on the outside within Freemasonry. I don't think, I think that most of the people that join today, that's, or even let's say over the last 50 to 60 years, the people that have joined, I would say that the reason they walked away, if they did, was because they did not see that happening. They saw the outside world affecting the workings of Freemasonry
Yeah.
instead of Freemasonry affecting the outside world.
But to piggyback off what you're saying, and I agree with you, if our goal is to teach men how to apply these 7 liberal arts and sciences to their life, and as we said many times in the past, our service in our fraternity isn't selling fish; it's getting involved in our communities. So if we're teaching people, if we're supposed to be teaching people how to practice rhetoric, and then take it into the outside world and better that world, but you put your life at risk, that's a very scary thought. And
Yes.
and keep in mind, there is no prerequisite for political beliefs or even religious beliefs to join Freemasonry. I would invite anybody from any background that is able and willing to practice the foundational principles that we teach to go out and practice rhetoric and discuss your ideas with people. I mean, that's what we're all about. But if you can't do that in a civil manner, if you can't do that without your emotions getting I mean, let's be honest. Since we already brought up why this is about. If you watch any Charlie Kirk video, he's articulate, and everyone else is like, "F you! I don't agree with you. Your face is small. You look stupid." That's not rhetoric, and that's why
Right.
that's why he always looked like he was trying to push ideas. He's not necessarily trying to push ideas. He's just discussing things, but your ability to articulate your thoughts is so bad, and the arguments that you put forth are so weak that, I mean, so as a country, we have to be able to get back to like let's discuss ideas, and we don't have to agree with each other, but you can't feel threatened. And honestly, if no one that believes the same way as you can come up with an articulate and strong and clear cut defense for your belief, and it is paper thin and gets shot down every time it gets brought up, maybe you should reevaluate your beliefs. They don't have a
Right.
strong foundation.
Right. Yeah,
So
I believe if I were in front of Charlie Kirk, my stance, just like with you guys, is always would be just like it is with you guys. Change my mind. I challenge you. That's what I want you to do.
Yeah.
If you can give me a compelling reason to, I'm willing to. And I think if we brought that to the table, we'd be more successful in life and within our fraternity and within our brotherhood. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, but to me, one of the questions that comes to mind is it, yes, we should be able to debate and discuss, and we should be able to bounce ideas back and forth and disagree and all that kind of stuff. However, is social media the right place for that? And I'm not judging. I mean, there's some people that will absolutely get into all sorts of debate. I I used to, a long time ago, I used to get into it with people online. And and maybe it's just because I'm not good at it. But um, part of the problem that I always ran into was, so like here we are, we're talking, and and even though we're not together, I can see your faces, I can hear the tone in your voice, and I can get a lot of information on that. When you're just looking at a screen over here and somebody typing their words, you impart your own tone into what they're saying.
Yeah,
So
you're the narrator at that point.
exactly. So to me, I've always found it very, very problematic because you cannot determine tone, or most people cannot determine tone over text. And I'll give you the best example of this. For many, many years, um, whenever I would send my ex-wife an email, I would just put in the subject line, "Hey," like, "Hey, just I don't need anything right now, but what do you want to do for later?" Or whatever. It was something benign, right? I found out years later the way she was reading it was, "Hey," like I'm snapping my feet. No, I'm being serious. Like this became an actual real issue that I was
I
snapping my,
could see that. Yeah, I could see that.
and it's like that was never but this happened for years, and I had no idea. So to me, I've seen, we've all, most of us have seen the stuff that's going on Facebook and the back and forth and everything, and some people, yeah, they're posting some really terrible stuff. Is it our place online to call them out on what they're doing, or do we realize that things are heated at the moment and maybe we step back and forgive that brother, give him some time to hopefully to contemplate what he's doing, maybe address it separately or something like that? Or I don't know. I don't know the answer because I've seen it both ways, and some of it is like some of the people, some of the guys on there are like, yeah, you know what, they sh they should have their stuff reposted on what they're posting so that they can't delete it later because this is what you said. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. I'm actually really kind of neutral on this.
Well, and see, that's the that person that says this should be reposted is just as ineffective as the person that posted it in the first place, right? So that person's trying to play gotcha, just like this other person is. They're both taking the high and mighty ground, right? And not on any given topic, whether you are the person that's posting some ill-advised words, or the person who's playing hall monitor, you know, with that person and saying, well, you should save this for later so that you can't get away with this. I'm saving this for later. You're not going to get away with this. It's just same thing. Now, what we're taught to do is whisper good counsel. So I have no problem with somebody telling me online that I'm wrong. I have no problem with somebody doing it. It's been done several times in the past that I have changed my stance midstream.
That doesn't sound right.
That doesn't sound right, does it? I said several
Dennis,
times.
I've heard you apologize on this very platform before, right? Like you thought about it for a moment. You're like, wait a second,
Yeah, right,
I might have taken too strong of a stance on that. Let me rethink what I've just said.
That's exactly right. And that's the thing, is that when you're doing it for the right reasons, I don't think you can go wrong. And if somebody is doing it for the wrong reasons, however, you can tell. It's obvious. You're just fueling each other's fire. But I think that if somebody hits me between the eyes with logic, then what am I going to do? Just stomp off and exit the screen and forget about it. And the same thing on Facebook and whatnot. Now, I will say that it would be one thing if it's in open forum, right? Open to the public. In a closed group, it's a whole different animal. I don't have any problem with somebody correcting me or whatever, or saying, well, I would say correct somebody based off of your own emotions.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to correct somebody, you correct them with logic. You correct them with what the truth of a matter is, not what you want to believe the truth of the matter is, if that makes sense. Now, if it is something that you just believe in, then you say, well, in my opinion, this is the way it is. You don't state it as if it's fact. You say, well, in my opinion, I think we should be able to do this. And then it's your opinion. It's not saying that you're taking the higher ground. Great. That's your opinion. I don't have to believe you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to think the way you think. But if you're telling me that I am morally wrong, taking jabs at me, saying that I'm morally and ethically wrong for what I believe in, that's a whole different story. That's, and I think that as brothers, we should be able to have those conversations without taking jabs at each other.
There's a saying.
I think.
Go ahead, Daniel. Sorry.
I was just gonna say to bring back to Jason's point real quick, the idea that when we lose a lot in writing, right? Also, I would say, like, when you have a platform like Facebook or YouTube, one thing that's a one-sided conversation, right? It's really easy to put a thought or an idea out there, and there is no room and that exact moment for the repercussion of your words to affect you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can post something online and be like full of hatred, full of anger, and I don't get that instantaneous look of, oh, I see what that person reacted to me as. Oh, this is what their face looked like. Oh,
Yeah.
Here's their body language. Oh, here's all these other things. They're gonna hit me in the face because I just said something really stupid, right? Like, I'm not advocating violence towards anyone, but that I have to adjust my speech and my tone and my delivery based upon those social context clues of what's going on around me a lot of times. If you see someone, you're like, oh, that's what they're reacting to. Oh, let me like dial this back because maybe I'm going a little too hard on this, right? Even if your emotions are out of control, right?
And maybe that's the thing, is that we should be dialing it back when we're online, because we know that we're not seeing those cues.
Yeah.
So maybe we should automatically dial it back instead of going full on.
I would suggest that we're talking about rhetoric, right? But I think when we're looking at the written language, there is a lot, if not just as much, emphasis that has to be placed on grammar. And what I mean by that is, someone made a post earlier this week on like Texas Freemasons, and I didn't agree. It was like a service organization oriented thing. And I started, like, I typed out my response. I was like, this sounds kind of rude. So I put respectfully at the very beginning.
And that always triggers me, is when somebody says respectfully.
Well,
it's like, are you kidding? I know which one you're talking about.
Well,
yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
I was like, I'll put this because I wanted to preface this by, it sounds like I'm being rude. I'm really not trying to be rude.
No, just being pompous.
Yes. And
That's
so
all.
I think a lot of that. So maybe if Jason had said respectfully, hey, in his subject line, it would have came across differently. But you see what I'm saying? I think there's an even greater emphasis on grammar when we're looking at the written word. That's just my thoughts on that.
Well, that's why some people throw the emojis in there, just so that way they can be like, hey, this is how I'm trying to feel, right? I'm trying to smile at you. I'm trying to do this, or I'm trying to do that. And then,
right.
I agree.
There's
right.
a whole thing of like, is a thumbs up passive aggressive, right? So,
well, that's also, that's kind of like when everybody puts LOL behind everything they say. At some point, I'm sitting there thinking, well, you got to be serious with me. You can't be laughing the whole time you're talking to me. But I know they're trying to, play it off and not raise tensions. But in my mind, it's like, dude, come on. You got to be serious about something.
But there's a quote, and I don't know if it's an actual quote. It's just kind of more of a saying that I wanted to bring up in regards to rhetoric, and that is, you can't bring feelings to a fact party. A rhetorical debate is a fact party. And we probably have all seen this at Lodge. Like, every time I bring up dues, I'm coming with logical deductions based on the information that we have at hand. And you always know that there's going to be one or two guys that are really emotional because we're talking about money, and they're going to stand up. Yeah. Don't argue with donkeys. Yeah. But they're going to stand up and they're going to look like they're going to start crying, and they're going to be pissed off because the dues are too high. Right. And there's other topics like that also, where you come with the information. Logically, this is the conclusion we have to reach. I'm welcome to any other ideas, but they don't have other ideas. They have emotion. And you can't come to a rhetorical debate with emotion. And I'll go ahead and use Charlie Kirk again as another example. If you watch his videos, the people that are trying to quote unquote debate Charlie are emotional. They're angry. They're snide. They're trying to come with emotion, and it never goes as well. Like, they'll come up there and they think they have like a gotcha thing, and they're emotional about it, and it gets shot down because it just is not a good argument on their end. So you can't, and that's why rhetoric is so important. You have to be able, and like Dennis was saying, you have to separate the emotion from the logic.
I agree with some of that. Don't agree with all of it. I think that rhetoric, we all have our own truth. So, and it's based off of the information that we have available to us before the conversation, right? So before we come to that fact party, we have this information that's been available to us that we've made our conclusions in our own mind with, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that rhetoric is just a fact party, because you can fact me right out the door on a lot of stuff, and it doesn't even matter, because it doesn't mean I'm going to want to. You're not going to persuade me just off of facts alone. I mean, that's a portion to the equation, but it's not the complete equation. So you also have to tie in. I mean, it's marketing 101. If you want to appeal to someone, you can't appeal to them with just facts. You can't go to somebody and say, don't buy Twinkies. They're just full of sugar and byproducts and fat and oil and all the negative nitrates and all the stuff that'll kill you. Buy our brand because we have none of that, but it tastes like dirt. So are you going to buy the stuff that tastes like dirt, or are you going to buy the stuff that tastes good to you? Well, based off of, and it's not emotional, it's fact. It's fact. This one tastes better than this one. So I'm going to eat what tastes better to me. I'm going to consume more of what tastes better to me. So they're both facts. They're just what facts are going to be the ones that are going to trigger somebody's response. So do I want to eat something that is appealing in taste and healthy? Sure. Am I going to eat the dirt? No, I'm not. Do I need to eat the stuff that's going to kill me, that's going to cause cancer? No, I'm not going to do that. So
let me just share this based off what you said.
As long as it's not from ChatGPT.
Google Gemini. No, I'm just playing. Rhetoric is the art of effective communication and persuasion, focusing on how to craft language to influence an audience. While debate is a structured discussion where participants present opposing arguments to persuade a judge or audience. So in a debate, rhetoric provides the tools, like the classical appeals of ethos, which is credibility, pathos, which is emotion, and logos, which is logic, to build compelling cases and deliver them persuasively, moving beyond mere factual argument to connect with the audience on multiple levels.
ChatGPT just got smart.
So you're right.
That's exactly what I was saying.
But I will say, I still stand by what I'm saying, but you're right. And that is, if you just come to an argument or a discussion with nothing but emotion, you don't have an argument. You have to have balance.
And if you come with it with just facts, you don't have an argument. You have to have a combination, and there's an art to it. That's why it's a liberal art, because there's an art to it.
Got you.
Reform.
See, we practiced rhetoric, and I came away with a little bit different viewpoint.
So, yeah, and also, and I put in the little chat there.
Thank God there were facts in there that kind of backed up what I was saying. Another source, or I would have been screwed. No, go ahead. I'm sorry. None of you other guys were standing up for me. That's for sure.
We would love to hear your thoughts, Jason. I apologize for
I know.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Jason. I'm sorry. I forgot you were here.
Wow.
So I put in the chat, I said, the other thing is to not argue with donkeys. And there's a whole.
So don't argue with Dennis. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, however you identify. But so the whole idea is that there's a whole parable about a tiger and a donkey, and they're arguing, and the donkey keeps saying the grass is blue, and the tiger knows he's not right, but he keeps arguing with this donkey. And you do know, and those, most of the time, those people. It doesn't matter whether you come with them with logic, with emotion, with anything else. They are stubborn, and they only want to win an argument. And you find them, they seem to come out in droves on social media.
Yes.
And it's like, you know what?
Trolls.
The trolls. Online, they're referred to as trolls. And so the idea is, who those people are, and that it doesn't matter what you say, you're going to get into a mudslinging contest with these people. Mm-hmm. And I tell people, I said, first off, if you don't see something on Facebook or social media that you don't like, no one said you had to respond.
That's exactly right.
Just keep scrolling but if you do feel it compelled to, realize who you're dealing with sometimes, because you do know there are those out there who post things just to they're poking the bear. All they want to do is they got to get somebody riled up, and they want to get into a back and forth with somebody. So don't do it. Don't engage them. And I have found it doesn't matter the gravity and weight of my words. I have never changed anybody's mind online. Not once. Not a single time. At least for me. It's never happened to me. So I don't.
You haven't in person either. Don't worry, Jason. You're batting 1,000.
I think I'll push that. But I've come across people in regular life that it doesn't matter how many times you tell them one thing, they're going to say the complete opposite every single time. You're never going to change your mind. So the best thing to do is stop engaging them, because it's a waste of your intellectual energy to argue with a donkey, basically. And I have goats.
I agree.
And I've tried arguing with them, and it's just
it always goes bad.
No, that's cheap.
Dang it.
I just want to say, as long as
why you got to feed the beast, Jason? Why you got to feed the beast?
Because I'm the goat. No. As long as we're on this topic, if there's a brother that feels so inclined to celebrate the death of anybody that has a different viewpoint than theirs, simply because their feelings are hurt, or they don't agree with what they believe, I will agree with the post that Right Worshipful Rumsey put out, and suggest you really reevaluate either place in the fraternity, or really reevaluate your heart and fix that, because you can fix that, but if you're going to post something online that you represent the fraternity when you do that, and we are not an organization of hate or division, and that cannot be allowed. That cannot be accepted. And as far as like this turn the other cheek mentality,
I'm not that guy.
Well, I was gonna say like I was that guy for a long time, right? Because like Jason pointed out, like you're not going to convince anybody, but I think that we're in the position we are right now as a country, and the events are transpiring as they are right now in our country, because the silent majority have been just that, silent for such a long time. And I think just like we've talked about in the fraternity, like if you see it, say something, right? We can't be apathetic in our fraternity towards things that are corrosive to Freemasonry. We can't be apathetic in our country towards things that are corrosive to our society. And I'm not saying that as a Masonic stance, right? I'm not advocating for Freemasonry to have a viewpoint one way or the other politically. That's not what I'm saying. But I have some very good friends that are from both sides of the political aisle, right? And I mean, me myself, I'm pretty libertarian, right? So I see both sides, but there's a certain level of toxicity that has been seeping into our culture over the last, probably longer, but like really within the last 10, 15 years. And we got to call it when we see it. That's my viewpoint.
I agree. And that's why I believe that we can't just stand and watch somebody do that online if we know it's wrong. We've got to say something. We can't just let it. And it doesn't mean that we have to argue our point ignorantly. It means that we just have to say something. Say, even if it's as simple as saying, look, what you're saying is not okay. Period. It's just not okay.
Well, there's a time and place for rhetoric.
Yeah. And I've said that. Somebody at one time said something about, and I'm not talking about what has happened, anywhere this week or anything like that, but a year or two ago, there was a brother that he wanted to affiliate with a lodge, and they didn't want him because he was in a lodge, and they didn't want him. And I'm not going to say what grand jurisdiction this was or anything like that, but basically he wanted to go see what the Prince Hall Lodge was about. He wanted to see kind of how they did things and stuff like that. And his lodge said, well, if you like them that much, then you ought to just join them. And that's one of those situations to where I stood up and I said, look, I don't care what you believe, but that is not okay in Freemasonry. It's just not. In today's day and age, that is not okay. You're perpetuating ignorance in that mindset. So I think that there's maybe there is a time and a place for rhetoric, but there's always a time. It's always the right time to stop a conversation and say it's not okay to keep going forward with this ignorance.
I agree. There's certain things that just aren't debatable. You shouldn't discuss.
Yeah, there's some things I'm just not going to tolerate.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean I'm going to argue a point or try to get involved in the middle of it or whatever. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to tell you it's not okay. And if I have to step in, then I'm going to step in with big guns from somewhere else to help.
Maybe better choice of words.
Oh, the wrong words, guys. Wrong words. Sorry. With somebody with much more strength than I have to come and flex the absolute power that they have within our fraternity.
Yeah, got you.
That's what I meant,
you
guys.
put it
I'm
much
sorry.
better. It's okay.
Yeah, I didn't mean to do that. That's a poor choice of words with this week's events. I apologize for that, people.
It's understandable. Yeah, I don't know. There's a saying, and I don't know who to attribute it to, but like I said, I'm pretty middle of the aisle. But there's a saying that if you wanted to talk about viewpoints, the one guy that wanted to talk with you is not here anymore, and we not to advocate any kind of like extremism or anything by any means, but like we had to be willing to be that guy in our fraternity. We had to be willing to be that guy to see both sides, to be willing to have conversations and be willing to have those discussions and not argue, right? Not even necessarily debate, just practice rhetoric with. We have to get back to practicing the 7 liberal arts and sciences in our fraternity, because we've always advocated as Masons going out and being active in our communities and the things that we believe in, the things that are important to us. But if we don't have at least a trivium to support us in our endeavors, I mean, what are we doing? We're using bad choice of words through grammar. We don't have logic in our arguments, and our rhetoric is we don't have sound discussions. So we have to be willing to at least reinforce those things. I don't know that really geometry is going to help you a whole lot in discussion unless you're going, but you should still study them. But we definitely at least have to reinforce that base.
It creates a calculating mind, and it's important when you're having discussions. You know, the big theme over all of it: education, education, education. You notice anytime somebody reverts to violence, or even as simple as name calling and letting their emotions get the better of them, it's because they lack the education to follow in the conversation. As soon as you lose them in the conversation, that's when they start start trying to attack in other ways.
Yeah.
If you've ever noticed that in any kind of debate or discussion or whatever, that's typically when it sets in, is as soon as you're beyond their point of education, then that's when the bad stuff starts.
When the argument's lost, that's when violence kicks in.
Because right. Or even just name calling and you know, stuff like that. Even as simple as that, that's when it starts, is when. So education. That's what's going to help conversation. And I think that's where we need to, as a fraternity, as a brotherhood, we should be focused on the education of the craft, not just.
And I would say, not to get political here, so forgive me if I do sound like I am, but we advocate education so much on the fraternity. I mean, here in Masonic Improvement. This is why it's important colleges go back to actually teaching like a well-rounded liberal education and not this indoctrination that they're doing now.
Yes. It shouldn't, you know, we shouldn't be so afraid to send our kids to school today.
Yeah.
And that's
and it's not paranoia. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's what's being done.
It is not.
It is what is being done.
Yeah.
The schools are really pushing to send kids to college, and the college are really pushing to send kids left. And I dread the day my kids come back with blue hair. And it's not. I mean, it is what it is.
Well, I've had different colored hair, so I'm not going to say
mostly
that.
gray now. Well, you know what I mean. You know what I mean. There's nothing against the hair color itself.
Right. It's what came. What was behind it.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, I have friends that are gay and lesbian and
me too.
And there's nothing. I don't. It's a non-issue with me. I'm just not that person. But I do not believe that that's the job of the school system to
shouldn't push someone either way.
Yeah, you shouldn't be teaching that to my child, trying to get them to accept what you want the cultural norm to be. It's not your job to define what the culture is. in the world.
Yeah.
It's your job to teach what the culture is in a historical manner, not define what it's going to be tomorrow based off of your own personal views.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless you're studying the culture as part of your degree.
You know it, Daniel.
There's absolutely no reason for the colleges to be trying to, or high schools or whatever. Schools should not be teaching cultural norm unless you're going to that school to learn the cultural norm.
Exactly.
You're going to school to learn how to be a productive member of society, which means you need to have some certain basic skills like reading, speaking, math, obviously, and rhetoric, for crying out loud.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what our kids should be learning. Rhetoric and logic, not a bunch of stuff that doesn't apply to everyone's everyday world.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what I want to say.
A lot of it should be critical thinking, right? Like, how do I analyze this? What am I exposed to, right? Am I exposed to art? Am I exposed to music? Am I exposed to science? Am I exposed to math? Because these create a well-rounded person. If we look at Texas Freemasonry, right? I think all of us on the call tonight are Texas Freemasons. Texas Freemasonry held education in such high regard. They started, schools. They started we have a college named after a Texas Freemason, Lamar University. We have all of these things that just really help us understand, they understood an educated populace was very important because they saw the effects of it not being happening.
Yeah.
Right. And now we're seeing those same effects today is we've leaned too far to one direction or the other. Right. If we go back to the, thinking about it as a pendulum, right, it swings back and forth. Right. And so now we've got to this point where there's people advocating why do I need to learn all these other subjects? Well, it's because you need to be a well-rounded citizen. You need to be able to at least intelligently speak to something.
Yeah.
You don't need to be an expert in it, but you need to at least have an appreciation of it.
Well, colleges become less about education and more about being sure you pay a certain amount of money to get a piece of paper. That has increasingly lost its value over time because there's so many people with degrees now that, I'm sorry that your master's in cultural studies, underwater basket weaving isn't getting you that 6-figure income job you were expecting. So, we got to go back.
We've gotten a lot of great running backs out of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Never mind. The college is making tons of money off. What's that?
See that, Daniel?
That, Daniel? I thought that was a girl.
Yeah, that was 15 years old, buddy.
Wow.
Right there.
Yep.
Oh my.
Speaking of,
you see something, say something. Oh my God.
Wow.
Actually, that was 14. That wasn't 15. That was 14.
The kid looks like a skateboarder. It looks like a long-haired Bart Simpson.
That I was definitely skate or die.
Speaking of long hair, there was a comment earlier. I think it was Daniel. So 30 years ago, if you had long hair and just wanted to be left alone and live off the earth and do your own thing, that was pretty liberal. Now it's pretty conservative, right? So, it's all cyclical, right? If you listen to the Kabbalion episode, it's all cyclical.
Yep.
Right, for sure. Yeah, I had to lighten the mood a little bit.
Yep. Well, anyone else have anything they want to add to this tonight?
Well, I can't remember what comedian made the point. We're talking about effective use of rhetoric and logic, and part of the issue is, quite frankly, we have a lot of people that have access to a lot of being able to speak their thoughts to a lot of different people that you wouldn't have had in years past. It's
everybody's got a platform now?
Right. Like for example, just my little account, I've got 1,000 friends, right? And whenever I post something, at least it reaches 100. Yeah, I know. 150 people will probably see it at some point. is that really good? Is that really
Well,
healthy?
we've
I mean,
always had
like,
quite a bit of reach. I would say, like if like 100 years ago, Jason. Sorry to cut you off, but like 100 years ago, if you had an opinion, you walk downtown to the square and you stand on a box and you start talking. And if it was a
right.
good opinion, a crowd would gather. And if it was a dumb one, people would be like, STFU, would throw like a tomato at you or something. And you'd be like, okay, this is that feedback that we were talking about that you don't get online.
Right.
This is that
Exactly.
feedback. Like if you stood up and started talking, everyone just kept walking by and looking at you and throwing stuff. Okay, I'll go somewhere else, right? But like if you get a crowd, you're like, yeah, I'm onto something. They're fired up. It's totally
Yeah, but
different.
you had to make the effort to go downtown and find your soapbox and go and stand on it. Whereas now, you can be in the middle of nowhere in your little farmhouse and, come up with some stupid thought in your head and you blurt it out. And like hundreds of people are going to, or thousands, or maybe even millions of people are going to see that. It's like there's no sense of any consequence to that. It's,
Well, and yeah,
Oh,
and
there's
it's
definitely
not only
consequence to it now,
that,
depending on what you say.
and it's not only that, but we live in this instant gratification world, right? So people don't stop and think about what they just processed before they reply.
right.
And I'm even bad about that. I see something and I immediately start typing, and then I immediately start deleting, and then I start typing again, and then I delete, and then I set the phone down for a minute, and then I start typing again, and then I finally have my thought. But it took a while before I got to that point because it used to be immediately type in an yes, that's how I feel about it. And then I'm looking at it thinking, oh shit, it's not how I feel about it. I just said that. And we do that. So not only is the guy, oh, my internet is
Got pretty slow. While you're waiting on your
not
internet to
only
pick up, while you're waiting on your internet to pick up, I'd recommend anybody that still has had Facebook for like 20 years, like I have, go back and look at some of your first posts. Like you like back in 2010, you like typed it like, yeah, that's it right there. That's gonna change the world. And go back and look at it. It's like, what was I even thinking? Sorry, Dennis. I was waiting.
Well,
on
that's
your
why
internet
you
to come back.
added. That's why you added me on the show, right? Because you had those thoughts after watching some of your first episodes, and it's like, what was I thinking? I needed somebody with personality on my show.
Is that a
Oh,
rhetorical
really?
question?
And we may be back to not thinking before we speak.
Exactly. Yeah,
Don't argue with the donkey.
He just did it again. He's like,
cyclical.
yeah, that's a good thing. I just said.
It's cyclical. It's cyclical.
I really fired off some ideas. Yeah.
That's funny. Oh man.
Well, anyone else have
But
anything tonight?
yeah, somebody else, please.
We can.
I'm just feeling like the dumb guy in the room again, and I'm not. I don't know that I have a whole lot to add. Although it did occur to me that the matter of rhetoric is pretty deeply ingrained in our very first amendment to the Constitution.
Yes, it is.
The government shall not abridge the right of its citizenry to speak freely. Now, here's where the ugly side of that comes in. I can be absolutely in favor of, somebody getting out there and being loud and preaching what I believe. But I have to, at the same time, be willing to be out in public and hear somebody spout beliefs that are absolutely contrary to my own. And I don't get to tell them to sit down, be silent, go away, any of that. I certainly do not have the right to incite violence against that person.
Correct.
And I feel like that is something that has been lost, is we forget that as citizens of a free country that guarantees our right to speak, We have to not only uphold the right of those to speak that we agree with, we have to actively uphold the right of those to speak who believe differently, even opposite
Yeah.
what we believe.
And that's a great
If we
point.
can't
That's very
support
powerful.
their right, we cannot expect our right to be supported.
And to piggyback off what you're saying, hate speech is a real problem. But just because you hate what someone is saying does not make it hate speech.
Exactly.
Right. Now earlier, just so that people know, in the context that I was speaking in saying that it's not okay to be that way, that has to do with my fraternity, my brotherhood, and I'm allowed to speak on that. So,
and especially when it is in the form of whispering wise counsel.
Mm-hmm.
right. So in essence, I'm not going out telling people online, just any Joe Schmo online that, you can't say whatever you want to say. And I see offensive crap all the time, just like everybody else. And it really hurts my heart to see that stuff.
But within my circle of friends, and particularly my brothers of the fraternity,
within my circle, if you want to be in my circle, if you want me in your circle, then I'm going to tell you it's not okay.
And I won't, and I don't know, I'm speaking for myself here, I won't unfriend you just because, like, for example, I had a former student
I'm not that
very
guy
hateful things in regards to it, and I told him my thoughts on it. But I didn't unfriend him, right? I'm not trying to create an echo chamber, either here on Masonic Improvement or on my personal Facebook or anything. I don't want an echo chamber in my circle of friends. But I'm also like, hey, you got to call it when you see it. And if they choose to unfriend me, thanks, Daniel. But if they choose to unfriend me because of that, that's on them. But I'm not that
Justin's
guy.
got this guy.
That's
why we're co-hosts, so we always have a friend.
There you go.
But only the one.
Yeah.
But only the one.
Only the one. Anyone else have thoughts? The Tom, the Daniel, the Jason, Borthers.
I got more thoughts if y'all don't.
No one else?
All right, so
final thoughts.
Yeah, everybody's trying to come up with something. They're all
quick, think of something. Sing the alphabet, something.
Oh, that's funny. We lost one. Uh-oh.
We got Jason. Oh, I thought you were about to say something.
I quite literally don't. I'm just hoping somebody else.
Before we jump off tonight, I do want to talk to all of y'all after the session, all of our inner circle.
Yeah, y'all stick around.
I got something that I was thinking about that I'd like to talk to y'all about.
Well, I'll share my final thoughts then. So you can.
Nobody typed anything flattering online.
No, it's been pretty quiet. Pretty quiet online.
Everybody's probably afraid.
There's a Charlie Kirk quote that is, you can tell a lot about a person by how they react when somebody dies. And I'll refer back to what I said earlier. Like, we always talk about guarding the West Gate, which this really reinforces the need more than anything, I think. But we talk about looking at their social media. And this really reinforces the importance of that, because if they're posting things that are hateful about like what happened, they don't have it. They don't need to be in our fraternity. And likewise, if they are a Mason and you're seeing things like this, you say something. Say something. Because it's reflecting on us. It's reflecting on us as an organization. I see it all the time. There are so many comments on our videos. I was told Masons believe this. I was told Masons believe that. People that are not Masons think for some reason we're like this hive mind, and we all believe the same, have the same religion, follow the same political parties. We just all think the same thing. And so when you have non-Masons, granted, like I don't worry so much about how people perceive us as like a lot of people do, but also I don't want to get people like kindling to hate us by that same token. And so when non-Masons see Masons, and most Masons on Facebook are pretty obvious they're Masons. When they see them posting things like that, they automatically think, well, that must be how all Masons feel about this. And we that is completely untrue, and it's unacceptable. And so this really reinforces the need more than anything to be sure that when we let someone into fraternity, can they conduct themselves well privately and publicly? Because whew, man, I'm just saying, like, if you know that there's a brother Mason that has that opinion, they haven't posted anything, whisper words of counsel, be like, hey, you be sure you don't post anything like that. And I'm really concerned about you, because that's a lot of hate coming out of a Mason that has no place in a brother. But if they post it, man, tell your DDGM or something. I hate to be that guy, tell people to go tattle, but dude, that is not okay. It is not okay at all. Celebrating, you're celebrating evil. You're celebrating violence. And there's a saying, I don't know really where it really comes from, but let evil have no rest. Don't give evil any respite. Like root it out wherever you see it. And that's really what I feel like. I feel like what happened was evil, and if you advocate it, if you think it was good, you're advocating evil. And this is coming from someone that, I mean, we talk a lot about esoteric concepts, like what really is evil, what really is good. It's like when it happened, I could feel it. Like it ruined my day, and it ruined most of my week, because seeing those poor kids. That man's poor kids that will grow up without a father, who watched their father die in front of them. That's a travesty that no kid should ever have to go through. They will never be the same. They will never live normal lives. And that's just heartbreaking to know that. That's evil. And like I could feel it. I could feel it. Like it literally ruined my day, and it made me sick to my stomach for a long time. It still it still bothers me now. So there's no place for that in this world, but especially in our fraternity. So I'll just leave it at that. And we may lose some subscribers over this. We may lose some friends in our fraternity over this. And I hate to say it, but we weren't for you anyway.
Bye now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, you can talk now.
Jason, what you got?
I think I've kind of said everything I wanted to on this topic in particular. So,
what you got, Daniel?
I just think I think we need to have a little more grace in general, right? A little more understanding. Open your heart to the ideas of others. Open your brain. Open up those logic centers, right? Hear the logical debates, and then meditate on those. Think about them. Like, what did this person say? Why did I feel this way when they said this? Is it because I feel like it was a personal attack? Is it because I feel like they're attacking my values and my belief systems? Do I need to reflect on my values and my belief systems and say, is what I'm grounded in because someone told me that, or because I've thought about it and I actually truly believe this? Right? It's a moment for self-reflection, if nothing else. And I'll just echo what Justin said, right? Like, man, for me, it hurt my heart that two kids go home to no dad. A wife goes home a widow in an instant. That's what hurts for me more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
This morning I woke up to a text of a brother Mason who passed away. His wife woke up, found him in bed. Didn't wake up this morning. That one hurt this morning. And it's like, man, what am I doing with my life? What legacy am I going to leave as a dad, as a man, as a son, as a father, as a friend? What am I going to leave behind? Am I going to leave behind something that is so bland because I stood for nothing? Or am I going to choose those areas that I'm going to stand on and really be able to fight for those areas and say, no, this is what I believe because I've really thought this out and I really understand why I believe this. That's what I did with tonight.
Memento mori, right?
Yeah. What is that legacy I'm going to leave behind? Because someday we all will die. We're not getting out of here. This thing,
Nobody wins the game in the long run.
Yeah, nobody wins. Yeah, Yep, yep. We're all gonna, death and taxes, right? We're all gonna have to pay both of those fees. And but what will I be remembered as, and what will I be remembered for? And we have to think about that.
Very good, Daniel.
Very wise.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for all your thoughts. That was a really good live.
You left out Byron? Why
Oh,
would you do that?
I thought Byron already gave us. Sorry, Byron. Did you? I thought you already gave your last talk. Byron, did you have something?
No, that was my final thought.
Oh,
Is
okay.
that this about the Constitution and the First Amendment, and that
Yeah.
we have to.
See, I
We
thought
have
we
got
already
to
asked
protect all of
everybody.
that.
I thought we already asked everybody. That's why I did mine. And then Dennis is like, all right, well, you got
well,
Jason.
Give me a second here to think and see if maybe I can be a smart guy again. No, sorry.
That's about all the smarts you got in you tonight.
Yep,
I
that
get
was
it.
my one contribution.
I
It
get
was a
it.
good
That was
one.
a good one though. That was perfect for what
All right.
we're talking about.
All right, D
So-
nice.
All right. So going back to the beehive and what our beliefs are, what people perceive our beliefs to be, people thinking that our beliefs ought to be the same. Ultimately, our core beliefs should be the same as Masons. Now, we have to understand what core beliefs are, though. And I think that people have forgotten what actual core beliefs are and what beliefs are, right? Because political beliefs are definitely not core beliefs. Core beliefs are honesty, integrity, fairness, character traits. Those are what defines your character traits are your core beliefs. Those are your core beliefs. And that's worth contemplating, figuring out, and taking action on. Whatever you do in life or don't do in life should be balanced according to those core beliefs. You should have your core beliefs on this side, and whatever you plan to do or don't do on the other side, on the big scales of justice, and determine where you're going to go. In my opinion, and too many times we let all these outside contributors in as if they were core beliefs, and they're not. All that is a bunch of drama and white noise that detracts you from what's important. And now what's important to me and what's important to all you guys, that may be different. But our core beliefs should be the same because we're Freemasons. We do believe in freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of expression, the freedom of thought, contemplation. We believe in rhetoric. Those are core beliefs. And when we don't hold each other accountable to those beliefs, those kinds of beliefs, then we're in trouble as a brotherhood. Now, is it our responsibility to police the world? No, it's not. But it is our responsibility to police each other in that way, that these are our core beliefs. And if our lodges don't know what those core beliefs are, our lodges need to figure that out. Education. We need to figure this out. Because like I stated earlier, there was a time when our brotherhood built each other up so that we could be the pillars in our communities. And it seems that's no longer the case. And when you have the lack of something in a community, something else is going to come into that community. So something's always going to fill that void. And it's not always going to be something that we like. So we need to fill it with something positive. And I think that's the takeaway for tonight for me. is that maybe I should reflect a little more on what's being relayed to me before I spout off what I'm willing to say, coming right back at you. And just to stop making those faces at me. The rest of the world can't see
I'm
that,
just so proud of you, Dennis.
right? Baby boys all grown up. But maybe we ought to take a minute every once in a while and not engage and understand what our motives are first. But ultimately, if we don't understand what our core values are, then how are we going to fill that void with positive change? Or just, and they're not, it doesn't even have to be change, but just positivity. Be the inherent good that people can stand on when they feel like falling because of the inherent bad that has happened so publicly. Maybe that's where we are tonight.
Yep.
That's where I am tonight. Otherwise, keep it between the points.